performance Klopp will want to buy him.
Hello and welcome to another LFC Transfer Room YouTube stream for your Monday evening. Started. I'm a bit gutted, to be honest with you, because the Corey's playing for Palace and he shouldn't be. But yeah, we are back. It is 7:30, joined by Harmony, Dan, and I'm going to butcher your name here, aren't I? Mihai?
Yeah.
Mihai, yeah.
I'm crap with names. I'll start with you, Harmony. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Been a busy day. Yeah, so it's kind of keep me occupied a little bit. So yeah, I've been good.
Dan, up to much? I know you're watching the Palace game there, so you can let us know if the Corey gets injured.
Yeah, no, I'm watching the Palace game right now, and I have a Peacock account and also have YouTube TV, so I'm going to be watching it just to, during the stream to see if anything interesting happens. But yeah, doing good. Can't complain. You know, trying to clean up before I go back to work. Trying to look somewhat presentable and decent.
And Mahai, how about you?
Good. I'm almost as annoyed by the Heat as I am by the fact that we're not signing anyone. So yeah.
No, Mihai, we're gonna sign someone, just not someone you want. That's
much more reassuring.
Which one is worse, not getting anything or getting something that you didn't want? Like that's the true question of Christmas.
It's philosophical now, you
know. Not getting anything at all. Actually, over that.
Well, starting on what some fans would think is a negative, really, with Quansah going on loan, and it's being reported by Neil Jones. No club's really reported yet, but I'll be completely honest. I haven't seen him last season in the academy. He's definitely a talent, but he's not ready for the first team anyway. So I do think that it's much better if he was to be going on loan anyway, because he needs that season of men's football. Really, I mean, he's a fantastic talent, but for someone to come in and pretty much be relied on it in this season, I don't think it'd work because how young he is. But what's your thoughts on him going on loan, Harmony?
I was one of the people that was kind of bigging him up and wanted him to stay for the season just to play the odds, Europa League, Conference Cup, and FA Cup games. The group stages, early stages. I thought he would have, providing how he does in those games, could have gave him a boost up to the first team. And, Klopp could have gave him like an easy game, like a game against Palace or, Luton or something. Would have been something that I would have said that he could have played. But obviously the club is looking at it in a way where they want to build his experience and for him to also get experience and just kind of get that game time playing men's football. And I think it works out for both ways. It would have worked out for him, but I think this is good for him because he's gonna get that experience and he's gonna pretty much be a first team starter to whatever team that he's gonna go to. And I feel like by the time that he comes back, he's gonna be someone that can come in straight into the first team. So yeah, it's good for the club.
What about you, Dan? Because I know a lot of people thought Quansah was maybe going to be relied upon this season. Do you think it's important for him to get that loan for his development in his own career?
Yeah, I think it's very important for him to get that loan right now. I actually think it's interesting that they've waited so long to get a loan for him. I think so me and Harmony were really bigging him up over preseason. I watched him a little bit in the academy as well, and he did look raw, but he did also look promising. And as when we were linked with defenders, but we didn't sign a defender for like over a month, I'm like, I think they're going to put Quansah in. And I was trying to think like that Klopp and Linders obviously rate him very highly in that team. And they kept him around for, we're 2 weeks into the season now, and he's been training mostly with the first team squad. So this tells me that they rate him high enough to keep him around, but they feel that he's not going to get enough game time. And also, I think it's a pretty big sign that the next player we're going to buy outside of potentially another midfielder, but not a six, is a defender. I think they're going to try and move for a defender before the window closes. And I think that's also why they decided to do a loan. Because if you look at the players we loaned, it was Ramsey for fitness. It was Seth Vandenberg to Mainz, who's probably going to get a permanent move there. And Phillips, all these people, Williams, not Phillips. Williams, all these players that we know are not going to get game time, and they held on to him to the very, very end, which tells me that they were thinking about playing him, and now they're like, we'll sign someone else and we'll develop him. But I think this is the best option for him at the moment, especially if he's not going to get 15 to 20 games. If you're not getting 15 to 20 games a season at Liverpool, you're just wasting your time and need to move on. And I think that them loaning him out tells us that they rate him enough for the future, but not right now.
That's the most important thing, isn't it, Mihail? Like with Quansah, he's not going to get 15, 20 games at us this season, even with Europa League. So to go and get that experience elsewhere is important, isn't it?
Yeah, realistically, 15, 20 games is very, what's the word, like, very nice of you, Dan, to assume 15, 20 games. It's probably around, let's see, if he stayed, I'm guessing, I don't know, he starts maybe 2-3 games, like in the League Cup or something. And I don't think Klopp plays him even in Europa League at the moment. But yeah, obviously, really promising player, and it's good for him to go on loan. And it highlights once again the need for a center back. But I know, Dan, you said you actually think we're going to move for a center back, because I'm like 90% positive we're not, because it hasn't happened until now. So it's
That's true, but I mean, I didn't think it was going to happen as long as Quansah was there, because they kept him around, obviously, as the fifth choice center back. And I think that the fact that they're not looking like to move for Decore, who can play both center back and defensive mid, I think that's telling me that they're probably going to sign someone for left center back. It just may not be someone that, you know, we might think of as like and that's going to come into play. Even someone like Hincapié, you know, someone that's not going to come in and start right away, and they might even be in discussions with the center back or a midfielder right now. They're saying, like, this is our plan for you. You're going to get this amount of starts right now in the fall, but we're going to look to play you more come January, come February, come March, when the games really start to come thick and fast with Europa League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, and Premier League. We're pretty much playing a game every other week. I mean, this is the only time that we're going to have not only one game a week pretty much until the end of the year. Right now, up to the first international break. So I think that's what they're pitching right now to the likes of Gravenberch and possibly Piero Hincapié.
Yeah. Before we move on, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe on the channel. It helps us out loads. 72 if you're in here right now. I haven't seen on everyone's left that little like. It does something with the algorithm. I don't know what. YouTube makes you do it. It's boss. It takes you 2 seconds. So help us out. Moving on. Harmony. Plenty goals being saying that us and United are favourites to sign Gravenberch if Bayern do decide to sell. Now, it has been reported, obviously, he's unhappy with Tuchel. Plenty goal, very reliable. I somewhat feel like he'd choose United over us because of Ten Hag. I don't know what you feel like.
That could be a factor, because obviously he's played under Ten Hag, and I believe he probably thinks Ten Hag can get the best out of him. But I feel like we do have a chance because of Klopp, because of Virgil, because of Gakpo. You know, I'm sure they're really close to him. I'm sure they're close friends as well, and they speak on and off the pitch. So I feel like we have a hand in that they can kind of convince him to come to Liverpool. But regarding him, it's a bit, for me, it's a bit like I'm a bit 50-50 when it comes to him. If we got him, I wouldn't be upset, but if we didn't, it wouldn't bother me as well, because I feel like if Bayern it's been 2 seasons and they're still not starting him, they're still not giving him a chance, then what's really going on? What's going on? What's wrong with the player? You know, at least give him a chance to, you know, to play the game, play a couple of games to kind of see if he has a chance, but they're really not even giving him a go at all. And the fact of the matter, they keep saying that they don't want to sell him, but yet you're not playing the guy. Then it's kind of confusing, his situation there, and I don't know what exactly he's going to bring to Liverpool, because we really got an 8 in Mac Allister, so I don't know where he's going to play, because he's not a 6. I don't think Klopp can mold him to a 6. I don't see him as being that type of player, because I feel like he's too advanced in terms of, like, he lacks attacking play than him being defensive minded. So I really don't know where he would fit into this Liverpool squad personally. Yeah, so I don't know when it comes to him. Like I said, I'm a bit 50-50. I don't know where to stand when it comes to him. Great young player, but right now I feel probably his best options would be United, because I feel like he'll get more game time there, and I feel like they probably need him more than we do. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, I've seen when I first mentioned it, you're shaking your head, but Harmony couldn't have put it better there, really, could he? Like, the best football Gravenberch has played has been under Ten Hag. I mean, I know he hasn't really had a chance at Bayern. He's probably unfortunate. He's got the likes of Musiala and that ahead of him. But he is going to play more in that United midfield that's weak than than in Liverpool, really, isn't it? If you're thinking from a Gravenberch point of view, we've just spent between 30 and 50. I've seen over 15 different fees reported for Mac Allister, and we've spent £60 million on Szoboszlai. So he's not going to dislodge them because he's not a defensive midfielder.
So I feel like we all have short memories, and I feel like no one remembers us playing Ajax under Ten Hag when he had Alvarez and Gravenberch playing as a double pivot and David Klaassen as a number 10. I get what Harmony says, and I would be on his side more, Harmony's side in this argument a little bit more, if not for the fact that Bayern last year were just an absolute mess. One, the managers don't bring in the players, the board does, and that's how the relationship works in Germany. So Nagelsmann got him, didn't want him, and didn't rate him because he's not really a Nagelsmann type of player or Nagelsmann type of box-to-box 8 or a 6. He's not a dribbler, he's a passer. Tuchel comes in because Nagelsmann's burned everyone's heads out. Tuchel comes in, and they're like, you have to go win this league. And so Thomas Tuchel comes in, he's pretty much saying, I just need this most solid 11 veteran plays I can do, and obviously Gravenberch is not that as well. For me, if I'm Liverpool and I'm Klopp, I go and get Ryan Gravenberch, and there's 2 reasons why. One, he's 21, and he won't count towards homegrown until next year to register. So at the very least, you're buying a really talented midfielder who can fill a lot of positions, and you don't have to register him this year. So it solves that issue as well. 2, I keep getting this argument in the group chat, and I feel like everyone has a very limited idea of what a number 6 is. True, if you're playing Ryan Gravenberch as a lone 6 in a 4-3-3, then yeah, I would. He's not that. But if you're playing him as a double pivot with an Endo, if you're playing him with a Thiago, if you're playing him with a Mac Allister or a Trent, then yeah, he can work because all you need your 6 to do, and I feel like this is what we've been progressing towards, is win the ball, progress the ball, move up the pitch, receive the ball in the half turn. Gravenberch is great at all of that. Like that goal we conceded against Bournemouth, Gravenberch wouldn't concede that goal. When Trent receives it square on, it bounces off him, they win it, they score. Gravenberch would receive on the half turn, spin, and go into space. And that's what we want him to do as well. So from his perspective, I would choose Liverpool over United every day. Not because I'm a Liverpool fan, but United are a mess. Like, if you watch that United team against Tottenham and you're like, yeah, I want to go play for them, that's a very terrible idea. Like, they were absolutely destroyed by Ange Postecoglou. They got destroyed by an Australian Greek man. That's not something you see every day. I could see how he could choose United, but I think the report also was that United wanted him on loan and not to buy. And I think Bayern would only let Gravenberch go if they're going to sell him and they can spend it on a 6, because Bayern want a defensive mid, or rather Tuchel wants a defensive mid, but they still haven't moved in the market for one yet.
Jay Reese, good comments here. I've just been thinking that the whole time you've been speaking about the double pivot. We don't play with a double pivot, so why would we change our whole system for Ryan Gravenberch?
So we don't. So the thing is that everyone says we don't play a double pivot. If you look at how Liverpool play since we've essentially bought Fabinho, there's always someone next to him. Like, I know, like, if you look at passing maps and everything else, every time we played Fabinho, Wijnaldum would be next to him, or Hendo would be next to him, or Thiago would be next to him. This wasn't like the way we played with Fabinho with our 4-3-3 and even sometimes 4-2-3-1. It doesn't look like a double pivot on paper on a formation map, but if you look at how we pass and move the ball, it pretty much looks like a double pivot because they're within like 5 to 6 yards of each other.
I'm just curious how if you're saying going for Gravenberch, who are you taking out of Szoboszlai and Mac Allister?
Yeah.
So now a defensive mid, and if we play him defensive mid this season and we've given him a number 10, I'm going to be proper wound up. That's going to do my head.
So I think Gravenberch is someone you rotate with Jones. So the question isn't, are you dislodging Mac Allister or Szoboszlai? Who are you going to play when he doesn't play Jones or Thiago? Because I think they're moving Thiago to the 6, Endo to the 6, Badger to the 6. So you have 3 people who can rotate a 6. Gravenberch comes in on the left. We rotate him with Mac Allister, Jones, Szoboszlai, everything else as well. And so for me, you can pitch to Gravenberch saying you're going to get 15 starts against the bottom 10, where you're going to come in and you're going to play along. You're going to play essentially along with Endo, with one of Dominic Szoboszlai or one of Mac Allister. I think Klopp long-term wants to play with one or the other and not both. I know we don't like this because I love Dominic Szoboszlai. Like, this man is absolutely ridiculous. But I think that's it. I could see them doing this idea in my head. It makes sense. I'm not saying it's a great idea. I'm just saying I can see how they could make this idea work long term, because Gravenberch is someone that you could potentially mold into a 6, even though we may not see him like that right now.
So can I just add to what you just said? I feel like I understand what you're saying with the point you're making, but the problem is that he's not getting enough game time anyways. He doesn't want to be coming off the bench, so that is going to be a big factor on why I feel like he will choose United over us, because United, he's going straight into that team. Because with us, he's not going to get over Mac Allister. He's not going to be over Slobosai, and he doesn't play the 6. So now he's a bench player again. Now he's thinking, well, what was the point? That's what I'm trying to say. That's why I don't see him coming to us, because he's going to be riding the bench more times, because he's going to be coming off the bench for Mac Allister. I don't see him starting ahead of Mac Allister. And it's going to take him a little while to even adjust to the league and the speed and also the tactics of the team. So I feel like that's going to be one of the main reasons why, if it came to us or United, he will choose United, because United, he can go straight into that team. And he doesn't really have to ride the bench, because their midfield is a shambles. So that's what. So I get what you're saying, Dan, but it's kind of difficult to see it, because if you're coming from a team where you're on the bench and you're barely starting, why would you go to another team that you're not going to be above anybody else? So you're going to be second choice again, and you have to sit on the bench. And you have to learn, like,
we've got Mac Allister, Szoboszlai, Thiago, Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, Bajcetic, all for them 2 positions. So why do we really need Ryan Gravenberch when he hasn't really done anything, when he's made that step up onto a bigger level?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I can totally understand the counter arguments, and a part of me agrees with it. My reading of it is more the fact that Gravenberch's upset that Tuchel and Nagelsmann didn't rate him. It wasn't that he wasn't just getting game time. It's like there was no pathway for him to get into the team. I think if you come in with Klopp, he's pretty much saying, this is our plan for you. And that's something we're really good with players. When we buy them, we give him a pathway to the team as well. I agree with Harmony. I think he probably does end up United, realistically, head-wise, but in my heart, I'm like, oh, please give me Ryan Gravenberch. I just want the Dutch national team. I just want the entire Dutch national team to play for Liverpool. It'd be the most beautiful thing of all time.
Mihai, what's your thoughts on it? I mean, now United are being linked, I'm more in the camp of I wouldn't mind them going there, but what's your take?
This is an interesting debate conversation. So yeah, I guess it depends on what Jurgen wants to do. Because okay, you can play him. I mean, I'm trying to go back of what you guys just said. Yeah, you can. I guess you can play with a double pivot now, but is that really where we want to go? And how do we balance that out? It's like, we have to leave out one of Mac Allister or Szoboszlai or Curtis Jones, probably someone who's been in really good form since the last of the ending of the last season. So my problem with this whole thing is that I don't really see why, if we want to send someone, why him? Because I don't know what, like, you're gonna bring him and think of it. He can play as a 6 as long as he has someone else next to him, or not. He can play as an 8, but again, if you want to play Gravenberch as a 6, it's compromising again, and it's like a point that we've made over and over again. I think this summer we're compromising players with, like, Mac Allister playing as a 6 when he's not a 6. We're playing Gakpo in midfield when obviously he's not a midfield player, and now to bring in Gravenberch and just think of molding him into a 6 or changing the system, or I don't know. I don't really see the point. I think what we still need, or if we want to send a DM, a midfielder, I would go for a DM, and that Gravenberch is not necessarily someone that would be my first choice.
Yeah, is Harmony still there? It's going to pass. We've done over.
I'm still here. I'm just doing something quickly. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Mihai, so just to respond to that, I mean, I think the reason why they're looking at him is that I think they always wanted a project player they could mold. If they weren't going to get the ready set made player they wanted in Caicedo, buy someone that you can develop, because that would be Lavia. Now, obviously, we can say that Romeo Lavia was ready made for a 6 more than Gravenberch, and I agree with that. But both would be projects to some degree. Even Kefren Turam which I said earlier back in June, was that I think if we bolt Thuram, we would buy him with the idea of developing him as a 6, even though he's not a 6. He's more of an 8. So we're going for someone who plays like a hybrid 8 that you can develop into a 6 long term. And I think that was their mindset going into that as well. I agree. I mean, I think you should just buy a DM and just, be done with it. You don't develop so many players. But I can see why they want to do that because, Gravenberch, he's 6'3". He's a big lad. He's not fat, he's not slow. He's pacing the mid. He's good on the ball. He can do it on the half turn. Like you're buying a Dutch player. Like it's essentially you're buying Genie Wijnaldum, but much bigger.
I mean, Harmony, he's on 60 grand a week now at Bayern, so he's going to at least want, I'm going to say 90 or 100, if you're being honest, with the inflation really and stuff. He's definitely going to demand a bigger salary, but
yeah, what's
the point in spending the money on him plus 100 grand a week potentially salary to then rotate him with when we've already got Thiago, we know he's here for at least another season? Because surely the amount of minutes Thiago gets is going to be few and far between because Mac and Szoboszlai are starting two in that part of the midfield. So then below them, you're probably talking Thiago as the luxury midfielder. So what's the point in? Can we afford to buy a project player, basically? Because it's a big gamble as well, spending 100 grand a week on someone to maybe not even work as a 6.
Yeah, we're in a position where we can't buy a project player right now because we don't have a natural 6 in the position like we did with Fabinho. If Fabinho was still here, then it would have been fair enough. You could buy a project player who can learn under him, who can come in odd games here and there, which that would have been fine. But because we lost Fabinho and we don't have a 6, a destroyer, who's just gonna sit in that midfield and just literally just guard these defenders and stop these easy chances of getting out of goal, we can't afford to get a project player, so that is the reason why. And like you said, the whole wages situation, he's going to ask for bigger wages. Why would you it's going to be the whole Naby Keita situation again, where you're going to be paying this guy a lot of money. He's not going to be starting every single game and he's going to be coming off the bench. That's just taking up and he's going to be taking minutes away from Curtis Jones and Elliott, players that have been here that probably earned their minutes through playing all these years, and he's gonna come in, a guy that's probably not in form, and doesn't have the best the confidence to kind of come in and impact the games the way we want him to, and we don't really need him in that position because we really got enough players in those positions where we are comfortable. We don't have to buy another one. So there's both arguments to both sides, but I just don't see it making sense in the whole financial sides of it. And in terms of the player, it just don't make no sense to me for him to come to Liverpool. If he really wants the money, big wages, and to play more games, go to Man United, they're gonna pay you stupid amount of money, and you're gonna play games. You might not enjoy your time there, but you're gonna get paid. So, and you're gonna play football, which he wants to do. Yeah. So for me, it's kind of a, like I said, 50-50. If we get him, I'll be fine with it. If we don't, I really don't care because I don't really see him as the player that I would say I would want to work as a 6. If we're gonna get Doucouré, then fair enough. That I'll be happy with because at least he has the Premier League experience. But you can kind of see that he's close to being that DM that you want. You just have to iron up a few kinks with him. That would make more sense to me than getting Gravenberch right now.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, Paul corrected me after I mentioned 60 grand a week. He said it's more 150 a week at Bayern. So, talking them numbers, you still want Ryan Gravenberch?
Probably not. I mean, listen, someone's going to get that salary request, and they're going to be like, "Yeah, no, we're not doing that." In many ways, and right now, if Gravenberch's on less wages than Mac Allister and Szoboszlai, get him. If he's going to get more, then no, because he's not better than Szoboszlai or Mac Allister at this point in time. I actually don't know if Paul, if you can send me the source, I'll look into it because that doesn't sound right to me. Because if he's on 150, then he's on more than Goretzka and Kimmich at the moment, because I think Kimmich's, or he's almost the same as Kimmich, because Joshua Kimmich's on like 200 or something. Like Bayern have a ridiculous wage bill, but it's not Man United numbers. And I mean, Harmony hits a good point. If he chooses United for the paycheck and the minutes, the fair play to him. I wish him I don't wish him all the best. He's going to United. United have shown themselves to be a pretty terrible club. If he chooses that, fair play to him. that's his decision, in many ways. And then that just shows me that he's not, then go get somebody else, But Liverpool would have an understanding of this. I don't think they're going to get themselves in a Caicedo situation where it's like they agree a term, they realize they're being played, they have to move on, they have to go look at somebody else as well. Because honestly, at this point, coming into the last 2 weeks of the window, you have a covered defensive mid with Endo. You're either going to have to get a midfielder that can do both, that's maybe more 6y. Decore is the one that's being linked to, but they may not see Decore as a specialist 6, or you get a defender. And I think you probably need to get both. But if you have to get one, get the midfielder.
So I just want to hop in. I did a quick search now that we were talking about it. In euros, Gravenberch is on 176K a week.
Oh God! Yeah. No, he can go to United. That's a United player. I retract my previous statements. I changed my opinion. Gravenberch can just go to United. That's way too much.
I mean, Mihai, that is a lot of money in it. That's talking like in Liverpool's wage structure, you're probably close to Trent, Van Dijk, that sort of cap of wages if he was to come in on a little bit more money than what he's on at Bayern Munich.
Yeah, and it's it's the perfect United deal. They just overpay for the player, overpay in wages. It's like a win-win for everyone except them, like always. So
I agree with Mihai. Thank you, Mihai, for your wisdom. As always, I will listen to wisdom to change my mind. In this case, I have been thoroughly convinced that I'm off the Gravenberch train now. I'm closing down the shop. I'm closing down the fan club. I was the president, CEO, treasurer, secretary. We're moving on to bigger, better things up the road.
Before we move on, there is only 28 likes, but there is over 150 of you watching. Please do leave a like. I hate to keep banging on about it. I wouldn't have to. Everyone just smash the like button. I wouldn't have to mention it because it's done then, innit? But it does help us out loads. I used to be one of them people who never used to think like, oh yeah, as is, it helps. No, it really does, honestly. So please do that. But moving on, Harmony, Chris Baskin reported that we are going to appeal the Mac Allister red. Now, I don't know if the rule's still in place that if you fail or appeal to get another match added on, but can you see us being successful with this appeal?
100%, because every single pundit and every single person that's being asked the question, is it a red? All of them have said no. There's no one that's come out and said that's a penalty, unless they're troll fans or Man United fans. They'll be like, yeah, that's a red, but no one else can come out and say that's a red because there was no force in that challenge. You can clearly see that when they collided, his knee was bent, so his leg wasn't straight. His stud was not up the way they're saying that his stud was up. It was literally side to side. It hit his shin, and the player literally made the most of it. So for me, it should definitely get overturned. I don't see any other result. And if it doesn't, then you can just clearly see what Klopp said last season about the whole agenda thing is true. Because Portini, I think he was in VAR on that day as well. So it's just it had to be him somehow. That we had to have him on that day to be doing the VAR for us. And as soon as we have him, we get a red card. So I don't get it. If that's a red card, then what happened to Gakpo last season when he got studded in his chest and the guy didn't even get nothing? What's that then? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it makes no sense.
It was also the line of Constantine something, who was also VR too. He that elbowed Rabo in the face.
Exactly. Yeah. So it just makes no sense to me. If that's the case, that was a red, then the Chelsea player, the last game we had, I can't remember who it was. He literally fly kicked Konate. He should have got a red, but he didn't get nothing. So it just don't make no sense. This VAR thing just really does not make no sense to anybody, because it should be simple. Is it a clear red? Yes or no? There's no maybe. There's no great. It's just a simple yes or no. And if it's a no, cool. Change it. If it's a yes, then cool. Keep it. At least that way, fans will understand. Okay, yes, there's a clear and obvious rule here. But this is just so many murky and grey areas in the rules that just don't make no sense to no fans. It should just be simple. Is it an intentional foul? Yes. Was it with force? Yes. Is that a clear red? Yes. If none of those things actually come up to be like as a yes, then that should not have been a red. You know, I don't get how VAR watched that and they still continue. They still told the referee, "Yeah, go ahead, send him off." It actually makes no sense to me. When that red came out, I was like, "What?" I was literally shocked because I was thinking, "Oh yeah, that's gonna be a yellow card. Fair enough." He gave him a red for literally hitting with a side foot, and they said the stud was up. It just don't make no sense to me. Yeah, I believe they should appeal, and I believe that it is going to get overturned. And yeah, McAllister will be available to play.
I mean, Dan, where I was sat in the ground, I'll be honest, completely honest, I thought it was a red because you could see McAllister's stud showing. So the referee, I don't really blame him for the red for what he saw in how fast football moves. His studs were up, and he did go in and on the shin. But upon coming home and watching it back, it's 100% not a red. So that's what VAR has the ability to do mid-game. So it's Paul Tierney really who's in the wrong here, and because the ref, you can understand his logic behind getting that red out, but for Paul Tierney to back it and go, yeah, that is a red, after having that replay, because I know a lot of people on the ground did think, yeah, do you know what, it could be a red, and then you see the replays, you see the different angles which VAR have, and you're like, well, that's 100% a yellow. So it's crazy, really, isn't it? There's just no consistency in the league.
Yeah, and I mean, so my thing is that I actually had a lot of not sympathy, but I thought the ref wasn't doing a terrible job. I just think that's one of the situations where there's a thing with the referees and how they act in the Premier League versus other leagues, which is that they try really, really, really hard to keep this aloofness, this kind of sense of like inerrancy about them. And then you have John Moss coming out and saying, yeah, you should have gotten a pen. And then they been off like the refereeing and the VAR crew from the Wolves United game as well. And I just feel like there's just this lack of transparency. And like if the ref came out and said, honestly, I just thought it was a red. And if you just came out and just were very honest about it and more human about it, I feel like fans online would just have like a better appreciation. You know, this is something that's been mentioned, like miking up the refs, like rugby union or cricket, and just having them just come out and explain their decisions. You know, because we're all human. Like I've refereed games. You know, I've sent people off. You know, sometimes I go back and I say, you know, like, did I make the right call? Probably not. But for me, the VAR situation really comes down to the fact that it's like all they have to do is just say, give this another look. And if he goes back and say, he can go to the monitor and say, I still think it's a red. Like, but the fact that we've conditioned ourselves, and this is part of the refereeing association well, is that if you're going to your monitor, it's getting overturned. But I've seen, and I think there was one instance last year where the referee went to the monitor and didn't overturn it. And I think that was our game. Someone needs to go back and find that because I think there was one time it went to monitor and nothing changed. It's just one of those things where it's frustrating because, yeah, it's like Tierney and the other guy, like their job is to look at VAR and say, like, is this an error? Was it clear and obvious is the thing they say is where. It looked clear and obvious to me, and the fact that they're adding so much subjectivity to it just makes it worse. Like if they just say, "Hey, just have another look at this, mate," and he goes and looks at it, and he's like, "Yeah, you know, I still think it's a red, or I still think it's yellow." I just think it would be much better. But the fact that there's just no transparency, and you feel like every time people try to raise concerns, they crack down even harder, just makes it worse. You know, the whole thing like no complaining, no moaning, no this, no that. You know, the fact that they've was it a Klopp got a Taylor sick Klopp off last year because he was in the City game because Bernardo Silva literally pulled down Mo Salah and Klopp loses his mind. Like I just feel like there's a lack of just human understanding that it's an emotional game and the referees won't respect. But if you won't respect, then just go out and just own what you do as a referee. Like that's the best way to do it. Just say like, this decision I made, this is why I made it. It's a game. Like people would be more understanding of referees if that was the fact. But the Premier League just like to do this very Byzantine, Wizard of Oz, smoke and mirrors thing of like the referees are never wrong, but we're gonna like bend them all off and put John Moss in charge and Howard Webb in charge. Ignore the fact that Howard Webb is hilariously was Man United's favorite referee for years. We're just gonna ignore all of these other things. Ignore the fact that all the refs are from Greater Manchester, and that two of the biggest clubs in this league are Manchester United, Manchester City. We're just put all that in the background. It's just one of those things where more transparency would just go such a long way for referees in the Prem.
Mihai, Jay Muse in the comments, I've seen it up there before, mentioned that he thinks it could maybe be reduced to a 1-match ban. Now, that'd be Newcastle. Would you be annoyed with anything other than it could be completely overturned, or is a 1-match ban still a plus because we're getting them back 2 games earlier?
I honestly feel like it's impossible to be completely overturned. I mean, it's just the way some of the decisions we've seen so far, even this season again, I just don't really trust, the FA at the moment. I feel like, I mean, obviously, yeah, it was a mistake, but I mean, I imagine Paul Tierney in that VAR room just saying, yeah, that's probably more like a yellow, but a few months back, Jurgen Klopp yelled at me, and that hurt my feelings so bad that this turns into a red. Like, I don't even know. It's weird. And yeah, honestly, if it's a match ban, then I guess it's fine. At least it's not 3. So I don't see it completely overturned.
Yeah, Harmony, Dan mentioned before as well about the referees getting respect. That new rule where pretty much you can't even disagree with the referee anymore. You can't say nothing when you get a yellow card.
Yeah,
Big crackers, really, isn't it?
yeah. It's just I feel like the referees are getting more protections and the protection, and the players are just getting punished for reacting like a normal human being would if you make a stupid mistake. It just makes no sense. I feel like it would be better, if you watch NFL, when a referee makes a decision, the whole fans hear the reasoning why they made that decision. That takes away the confusion. Yes, the fans will be annoyed, but they will understand, okay, this is why they made the decision. And I feel like they need to incorporate that into football. If their referees can come out and say, this is the reason why I gave this decision and this is why I'm sticking to it, fans will be annoyed, yes, but at least they will have an understanding of where the referees are coming from. And plus, it makes it easier for officials and people, the governing board, to make a decision on these things because they have these recordings of what the referee has said. So it just makes the whole process easier for everybody because they have evidence of why the referee made the decision, because everybody heard it. And it makes it easier for us fans that were watching to understand, okay, he made this decision because of this. We understand it. So I feel like that's one of the things that can be implemented into the game of football. Yes, the VAR was good, but clearly it's not working. So we need to find another way to get understanding between the fans, the players, and the referee, because this is just bad. Like, we are the best league in the world, and we have the worst referees. How does that make any sense? It just don't make no sense at all. So yeah.
Yeah, I think Damo is right. I think the Women's World Cup did have the refs mic'd up, but I think Australia have them mic'd up anyway, so it was just following there. But it should happen because you could explain decisions, because like what happened in the ground for the Mac Allister red card, really, that we all thought it did look like there was clause there to be a red, and then you see it back and there's not. So having that explanation on why that red's being given would be beneficial. Hughes, I would tell you, but we do a video on this every week, so I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to drive you to that video. That'll be out on like Thursday because I do it and boss. But yeah, before we do move on, like and subscribe, please, everyone. Do a massive favour for the channel. Not really sure how many likes there is currently. Don't know where our little help has gone in the chat. I think it's usually Charlie, might be busy, but 116. If we can get it to 100 for today's stream, it'll be mega, especially with the footy on. It helps the algorithm out loads, and when everyone's done watching the footy, they come on the YouTube, this will come up because of the stupid algorithm. But moving on to Endo, Dan, Neil Jones has been saying today on Redmen that Endo's not a squad option. He sees him as a starter. Been a lot of concerned fans off the back of that, but I mean, I've spoke to a few German fans of various teams, really, Bayern Munich, Dortmund, Mainz, and they've all come back saying, like, you've got a good player in Endo, don't write him off. Now, Klopp's not going to be telling his people who he knows are going to speak to the press, like Neil Jones, that Endo's only going to play 10 games this year. Rarely is he. So can you see him playing every week, or do you think it's more just he's being asked and he said, well, yeah, he's going to start, which he is going to start sometimes, rightfully so?
Yeah, no, I can definitely. I mean, when we bought Endo, like, my whole idea was the fact that he's probably going to get 20 to 25 games in the league, starts for the most part, and that's when we get Thiago back, Bajcetic back, and just whoever we end up signing from midfielder and center back before the window's over. Yeah, I mean, like, you don't buy someone if you don't intend to start them some games. Like we never really buy squad players. I know people, like, we've bought players in the past, like Adrian and Carvalho, Javi Elliott, youth players or like backup goalkeepers. But if you're buying a midfielder, especially in a spot where you don't really have a specialist defensive mid, unless you want to argue that Thiago's a 6 or that Bajcetic is a 6, yeah, you're going to buy him to start him games. Like, that's, you're never going to say, yeah, we just bought this guy and he's not going to play a lick. Not just for, like his confidence, but like if you're negotiating in the market for another midfielder, you're not going to go into those negotiations like, yeah, we want your guy because this guy's just here to just cover squad spaces at the moment. Yeah, no, I actually have no issue with that. I think Endo did a really good job when he came on. There were some weird things in the chat, during the game, like people trying to act like Endo came on and like was just sticking the gaff out. I'm like, we're playing. It's 10 men against Bournemouth. Like, guys, like this guy's not going to come in and do pirouette turns, and score a screamer. No, I mean, I think if you're starting Endo for 20 games, 20 or 25 games in the league, that's good. If he gets a Europa League start, like right now, if he starts the Europa League final, I might be worried, depending who we might play. But that's also without seeing him play a game. I'm probably going to fine with him playing because it allows players like Mac Allister, Soboslai, Jones, Harvey, Bajcetic, Thiago to play further forward. And that's where you want them to play. And if those guys are playing further forward, you're already a better team.
Mihai, comment here. You'd take Fabinho over Endo right now, and I categorically agree. I don't know about you. Fabinho, we suppose we had to get rid of him because we were never going to get 40 mil again for him. That's what we paid for him. But within this current side and the problems that we've currently got, how do you feel Liverpool would have been stronger with Fabinho than Endo?
Well, I mean, considering that we're probably not going to sign another 6, then yeah, obviously, I think I remember us having a stream and Harmony being really adamant that Fabinho stays, and 2 days later it was official that he leaves. So I was thinking about, Harmony spending like 30 minutes on stream saying, I want Fabinho to stay. 2 minutes later, I want Fabinho to stay. Yeah. I don't know. It's not fair towards Endo because in a way, Fabinho was the best DM in the world for a few years. So I mean, comparing a Liverpool legend to a guy that we don't really know about up until a week ago is not really fair, is it? I think in a sense with Endo, we don't really know what we get because in a way I've seen I've seen 2 sides to this story. Is the people on Twitter saying taking out stats and compilations of 2-3 minutes showing that he's a warrior, he's like such a good DM, he's, I don't know, such a good deal. Other people saying he's 30 and he hasn't been playing to top team up until now, so that's worrying. And I'm just saying we don't really know. Realistically, up until a week ago, I didn't really see him play, and I'm pretty sure that's the case for a lot of us. So I think I'm going to trust the club as I usually do. It's been, the recruitment in the last 6 months maybe has been slightly questionable. So, it's not as it was before, but I am going to choose to trust the club. And if they think Endo is the guy to play, to be our first choice DM, then we'll see how it works. If it doesn't work, it's on them.
Going into the season, Harmony, with the comments on Endo not being a squad player, a starter, confidence?
I don't know the guy, but well, from the little clips I've seen and the welcome to Liverpool video that they made, I don't know. I feel I have a soft spot for him for some reason. I don't know why. I just feel like he's such a nice guy, and I don't want to say anything bad about him. I just want to give him a chance to perform. I wouldn't be confident. No, if I'm being honest, I think we need to bring in another 6. and to have him, because you got to remember, January, if we're gonna get Andre, that's gonna be another 6 that we're gonna have in that position. So I don't know if the club is looking at it as in we're gonna have him until January until we get Andre, but I would prefer to get another 6 right now and have him like, someone as a backup, to come on and replace the natural 6 or the first the starting 6 that we're gonna buy. He looks like a good player. He did okay, but you can't really judge him on that because we were down to 10 men. There was a lot of pressure under that game because we had 10 men, and yeah, so I want to see how he does against Newcastle. That will give me a better indication on exactly what to expect from him. If he performs well against Newcastle and he has a solid game, then I'll have a bit more faith that he can do the job. But until then, I can't really judge him off anything because I haven't seen enough of him, and he hasn't really trained with the team as well. So yeah, that's where I stand with Endo.
Does a low move for Kalvin Phillips, like Alex Crooks being reported today, fill you with more confidence than Harmony because he is a natural 6?
No, not at all. Please, Lord God, I pray to you, please do not let this happen. You know what? If
I mean,
we bought
Fabrizio
him,
Romano said it as well, so it's
oh
got.
please, I
No,
really
don't.
hope.
Not
Let's not do this.
Fabrizio. No, Fabrizio doesn't know
Please,
what's
let's
going
not
on.
do this. I hope it's not true because at the end of the day, we're just gonna bring another navigator into the team. That's literally what we're doing. What are we doing? Like it makes no sense. If we bring him in, it just don't make any sense to me at all. Please, I'm just praying that we don't bring him in because it doesn't make any sense. He doesn't help the team. He doesn't strengthen us. All he does, he makes us weaker, and we have to pay money to have him into the squad, and
Pay
he's
money in
taking
the
minutes from
city.
players.
You have to pay
Yeah,
money in the city. It's that you're not paying money to like Bournemouth or like Luton Town or I mean even Everton to some degree, like because they need some money
exactly.
as well.
You,
It's
you're
not you're
literally
not giving
helping Man
it
City.
Cherkis.
Yeah, you're helping Man City to take away a player that they really don't want, and no one really wants to buy him. So you're just taking him off their hand. No, let them keep him. We don't want him. Yeah. So I hope it doesn't happen. If we got him when he was at Leeds, when he was playing really well, and we got him. Yes, I would love that Kalvin Phillips, but not this one. No, I'm good.
Right. It feels like everyone's in the same boat as you got there, Harmony. But I'm gonna give you my little bit of logic before we move on to you, Dan. I think Kalvin Phillips could be a smart, no risk signing because if it looks as though little spoiler, there's an exclusive video on Andre coming out at the end of this week, but it does look as though Andre will probably be done for January. So he's coming in January, huge talent, 22 from Fluminense in Brazil. So why go out and spend 70 million on Decore if you know the man you want's coming in 6 months? Now, Kalvin Phillips is being heavily reported to be on loan. This whole myth of him being injury prone, I don't understand it because he's had injuries, but he's missed 18 games with City, but then in Leeds he missed I think it was like 20 odd games over the course of his whole career there. And the injuries he's had are like hamstrings and his shoulder seems to be recurring, but he had it twice in 2 years and he's been all right since. Now, when we got Mo Salah, everyone was saying, why have you bought him? He was a flop at Chelsea. Then he become the best in the world. Now, if we're loaning Kalvin Phillips, Dan, and we're getting Andre in January, does that not make it seem a little bit more like, oh, yeah, that makes sense? Because if we go and spend 70, the way I look at it with FSG as our owners, if we go and spend 70 million on Decore, and then Andre's coming in January, I who's only 22, got such a high ceiling. Everyone wants him, and apparently he wants Liverpool. Then what happens with Decore? Then that's 70 million that we've spent on Decore. I'd rather keep that and use that towards the money that we're going to inevitably have to replace Mo Salah with probably the end of next year, the year after, because our owners don't give us all that money. So it makes a bit more sense in that aspect, don't you think?
So the thing about the Calvin Phillips thing is that I can understand it from a point of view, like you mentioned, like on loan and homegrown. If you're worried about those two things, it makes some degree of sense. The injury thing, I think, really comes from the fact that, yes, he wasn't injured a lot at Leeds, but then his last year at Leeds under Bielsa, he was in and out. He wasn't always rarely available. Part of that Leeds team, that's when he started to pick up those injuries. And then at City, he had that injury, that shoulder injury he had that became recurring as well. But also, it just seemed like he got his big move, and then Pep Guardiola essentially called him fat, and that he wasn't good enough. And I feel like that just like absolutely destroyed his confidence. I feel like I can understand Phillips in a vacuum in an abstract way. Oh, Decore. But the thing about Phillips that I worry about is that it's still a project. It's just you're just rebuilding an older player rather than a younger player. So I already hopped off the Gravenberch train, but just for the sake of my comparison, both are at opposite ends of their career. Phillips got his big move, hasn't really worked out from so far. Gravenberch got his big move, hasn't worked out from so far. One needs much more confidence rebuild than the other one does. And if you're going to bring in Kalvin Phillips, you're going to have to pay a massive wage. I think he's on like 200 at City or 175. He's not on a small wage. He's not a big wage. You're going to have to pay a loan fee to City. And I hate giving City money in general. So, I'm just against that morally in general. If we're going to give money to any club, give to Everton just because they're going to get relegated and they need to build that stadium. So I would just give it to Everton for a charity case.
Oh no, just take Onana off them. I'd take him tomorrow.
That's true. I would take Onana off. That's one player from Everton I would take. It's just a deal that it seems low risk, but there's actually a lot of risk involved. That you're essentially doing the Otermello project part 2, where you have to rehabilitate this player, and he may only get 13 minutes in the league. And if you rate Andre and you want him to come in during January, then yeah, you might as well. You could transition him in, but then why buy Endo? That's kind of what Endo's job is to be the starting 6 for, let's say, 20 to 25 games until you bring in Andre, then you can associate with him as well. The Decore thing, I understand. I just don't think they're going to buy Decore. I think if they're not going to spend $70 million on Decore. I'm just being pretty honest. If they do, I'd be surprised. I just think they will. And it's not because we're cheap, and it's not because this and that. It's because Liverpool have a value of a player, and they'll match that value. They were willing to match Caicedo because they obviously think he's one of the best mids in the Prem. They were willing to go that high. I don't think they're going to give Palace $70 million for Decore. I think it's just the long and short of it right now. No matter how good he is, how good Czech Decore is, they're just not going to spend $70 million. They'll probably go and take that money, buy Andre, buy a defender, potentially buy another midfielder, and just go from there. Because also, if you're buying Decore, you're committing to Decore for 3 to 4 years. And I don't know if they rate him enough to commit to Decore as a 6 for 3 to 4 years. And if anybody's watching the Palace game right now, he's not even playing as a 6. He's playing as an 8. Czech Kuate is playing the 6 at the moment.
Well, he brings a comment up here about Decore now and Andre in January. Thiago's leaving in a year. It's a good plan. I completely agree. It's a good plan. I want Decore. I don't really want Phillips. I'd rather Decore. But our Crystal Palace, who are a mid-table side, and although they come out publicly and say they want to keep Decore, they've got to say that. They're not going to say he's available and they've got a game tonight at the right price, are they? So they're going to say they want to keep him. Now, they would be happy to let him go for 70 million because a team in the mid-table to go and sell him for 70 million, they bring a replacement in for 20, 30 million. It's profit for them. That keeps them powerful for another year and keeps them in there, in essence, in the Premier League because they can keep improving. But I think Decore is completely off because if he was going to play, why would Palace risk a £70 million asset this evening?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of agree with what Dan said about value and Liverpool's way of evaluating a player. I think it was pretty obvious with Lavia in the sense that it was dragged on for so long, and we're going with another offer that was 1 or 2 million above the one before that. So I wouldn't really see us go and splash 70, 80 on Doucouré right now. It's going to sound stupid, but especially since we got Endo. Mm-hmm. I just feel like we were all discussing it pretty much all summer, and I think everyone understands and agrees that we still need a DM and a center back, but by the way it's going, it's pretty obvious that we're not gonna get 2 players in anymore. So and I honestly, yeah, I don't really see us going for Doucouré anymore, just because of that. And him playing tonight, I think, makes it even more obvious, as you said. So yeah, I think I'm just hoping that Andre gets done, because we've been we've had this episode with Caicedo and Lavia when we assume they want to come to Liverpool, like especially with Lavia. I think it was all over Twitter that he wants to join Liverpool and that he wants to come. It's just a matter of Liverpool and Southampton working it out, and at the end of the day, it didn't really happen. So I know when I heard you say that Andre wants Liverpool, I just got a bit of a yes, but then yeah, I'm not gonna get excited yet.
To be fair, the Fluminense fans are all saying Liverpool as well. We've got an interviewed one coming out, an expert, and Andre, and he's saying Liverpool. So I think there is more legs to that than Lavia and stuff, and maybe the South Americans, they'll probably go for like Bobby, Allison, Coutinho to an extent, all coming here and having that career trajectory. Yeah, he may have aspirations of playing for Barcelona or Real Madrid, but I think right now that's what he wants, unless he's like Lucas, who comes to us and then plays his whole career there and goes back to Brazil, which would be marvelous. But I'm going to put this to all you. We'll go from Harmony right round to Mahai there. If we're not going to get the core, it looks like it'll be Gravenberch and maybe Phillips. What's the summer window out of 10 for you then?
Oh,
okay. I'll pose you a step. So if we get the core and nobody else, or the core and say maybe a centre back in,
yeah,
or we get Gravenberch and Phillips on top of this window, what is it for you? So let us know in the comments as well what you'd rate it out of 10. Start with you first, Harmony, before we finish.
We started off really well. We started off so well. I'm just trying to figure out where it all went wrong. so I just don't know.
Saudi Arabia.
It's Fabinho, Harmony.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like as soon as those two guys went, we just went. Our transfer just went down the hill. It was just so bad. As soon as those two guys left, it just ruined the whole summer. I'm struggling to give it a 5. That's the reason I'm still saying even still scratching my head. That's how bad I feel like this transfer window has gone for us. Damn. Okay. I'll give it a 5.5. That's me being generous.
What would we need to do to give you for you to maybe get a 7 or 8 this window then?
A 7 or 8 is us getting a DM, a proper DM. That would have been a 7 or 8. And a 10 for me would have been a DM and a centre back, because I do believe we need a centre back.
Yeah.
So that would have been a 10 for me.
If we were to go and get a centre back and Decore, and it's a 10 out of 10 window for you.
Yeah, because I believe that makes us more solid, and I believe that we could challenge for the league with those two players coming in. But because we don't have that, and we're depending on Robertson playing our position in a position that he's not really comfortable in, and you're playing Mac Allister our position in a position he's not comfortable with, it just destabilizes the whole team and the whole system, because you got Gakpo playing the 8 when he should be playing the false 9 position, which he does much better than anybody else in our whole team. So that's how I look at it. If we got those two players in a centre back and a DM, and also you add Andre at the end in January, we're looking good for next transfer window, because we won't need to bring in that many players. We'll probably just need to bring in 1 or 2 more players, and then we're set. So for me, it's a 5.5, and it was really hard for me to even say that. So yeah.
What about you and then Dan? I mean, Knife is saying it's a 6 out of 10 max, because it's hard to rate what hasn't happened based on losing Ward alone. I mean, I would knock points off every year just since we've lost Mickey Edwards, because when I was clinical. But what would you give the window? Same question applies with Decore and potentially a centre back, or with Kalvin Phillips and Gravenberch, based on the fact we've already brought Szoboszlai and Mac Allister in as well.
Listen, I love Harmony. I feel like he just needs a hug after this whole Caicedo and Lagos situation. I feel like his soul has just been torn into pieces, and he doesn't know what's up and what's down. So going into the summer, I think there was an argument to get 4 players. And I think if we come out of the summer with 4 players, regardless of losing Fabinho and Henderson, I think that's still a good window. I think losing both Fabinho and Henderson has accelerated a lot of our plans for rebuilding the team. And I'm just counting the summer transfer window. I'm not going to count Andre yet. I'll bring in Andre a little later. If we sign, I'm not going to say Decore, but if we sign a mid and a center back, regardless of who that mid and center back is, I think that's you've done your business. That's 9, 8, 10 out of 10, whatever.
Is it still 10 out of 10 if that mid's Kalvin Phillips?
It's probably more of a 7, but at least he's a player. So I can I can close my eyes and grit my teeth, and I can kind of live with it for the most part.
No, Dan, I'm sorry. If we get Kalvin Phillips, that brings the rating down. It doesn't keep it steady.
I think Harvey's just going to bid it in. If we buy Kalvin Phillips, it also is the matter. I actually think, and this is what I've kept saying all this window, it's like, listen, Kalvin Phillips, we can get him on loan, and he does a great job, and we win the quad. Everyone's happy, no one cares. We went through all this misery for nothing. For me, if you can just sign a midfielder and a defender, I think that's fine because Andre's still coming in January, as far as we're aware of. If you told me that midfielder is, let's say, Phillips and the center back is Hikape, I think that's still like a 7 and 8. It's a passing score, essentially, is what I would say. I understand people talking about the Julian Ward situation as well. Listen, this isn't the show to talk about, sporting directors in many ways. I don't envy Jörg Schmacke's position because, you come into the summer with a plan that you're going to do, and then you have to replace 2 of your most experienced players, even though I think that they sold them at the best time. Because even though, listen, I love Fabinho too, his legs were gone. I don't think he had 20 good games in him anymore. He may have had 15 against teams. So I understand doing that situation. If you can get 4 players in, we signed 3. So if we sign 2 more, then make it 5. I think that's a passing score. And it just depends on how those players perform throughout the window. But you've replaced what you needed. And I think that's all that matters. And from all the reports we've seen, they want a midfielder. They want a defender still. They haven't done the old James Pearce athletic. Yeah, Liverpool are going to remain quiet. It's going to be a quiet transfer deadline day for Liverpool. We haven't had that report yet. So my hope is that we still get those 2 players in.
And finishes off my high. What do you rate it with the core and a centre back, or with Kalvin Phillips and Gravenberch? 2 ratings. What would the window be for you?
Before that, I just want to say it's funny Dan saying that Harmony needs a hug, and then 2 minutes later going, yeah, I mean Phillips is a player. He has a pulse. So
he knows what defensive mid is. I mean, listen, listen, at this point, beggars can't be choosers, and I'll take anybody. Listen, if Klopp can make Jordan Henderson a Champions League, Premier League winning Player of the Year player, he can probably make Kalvin Phillips Prime Minister at this point.
He can't remove his injury-prone record on him. I'm sorry. As good as Klopp is, you can't do that.
we listen. Ox and Keita had an injury, had a non-injury season for the quad, and that was great. Listen, we could still work miracles. Those inhalers do wonders.
I think I think I agree with Harmony in the sense that if we get a DM and a center back, it's an 8+. I don't care about the names, to be honest, but at this point, I think that just says a lot because we got into this point where we don't really see. This is not really okay when you start to think about it, because we don't really care about the names. We just want to get the numbers in now because it's about that. We know we're not covered, and that kind of shows you that this was not done the way it was meant to be. When we were talking about a reconstruction, like something like that, a whole, like what's the word in English? Like an overhaul in midfield. You're not selling 5 midfielders in a summer and then bringing in 4 more in the same one. It doesn't work like that. And we should have, if this was done the way it was supposed to be, when Genie left, we get someone.
Yeah.
Last summer when we wanted to get Chouamini and we didn't get him, we knew Keita leaves this summer. Ox was probably going to leave this summer. Milner was going to be 37. Hendo was going to be 30-something. Fabinho was going to be 30-something. You bring someone in last summer as well. And now this summer, you just need to bring in one or two depending on who leaves. But this is a problem now. This is why I think no matter who we bring in, we're not going to be able to challenge for the league, because it's way too much of a change all of a sudden. I just don't see it happening. Yeah, no, I'm a bummer. I'm a party pooper, whatever.
Stop it, Mihai. Listen, I don't care if we almost won the league with Martin Skirtle and Daniel Adger and Ali Sissoko and Simon Mignolet. Like I watched that league. I watched that season with so much hope. I don't care. We can win with Kalvin Phillips as goalkeeper at this point. I don't care.
Yeah, but we will leave it there for today's stream. Before we go, don't forget to leave a like and a subscribe on the video. It does help us out loads. I know many people, when we made up with Dawn, can go and watch the end of the Palace game. What score is it, Dan?
0-0.
0-0. So go and watch the Decore masterclass. But I will take a clean sheet for Arsenal because I've got Ramsdale on my bench and my team, and Ariola on my bench. I'm fuming with that. But nice one to Harmony, Dan, and Mahai on today's stream. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. We're back tomorrow at 7:30, like we are every single day. We've been LFC Transfer Room. A nice one for watching.